And that is, yesterday you went to see some musea in the Netherlands. You went to Boijmans, you went to the Mauritshuis. And
it's nice to have a small country. I can go to 2 major cities.
Oh yes. And I would like to see if it's possible to put your lecture into the context of the discussion we are having now in the Netherlands about the meaning of arts and culture in general. Because you made a remark at the end of your lecture about that the museum is now from mission-driven turning into market-driven. And this is exactly the new policy by, well, it's now very much the policy of the government. There are serious budget cuts in all fields of the arts, and the message from the political world is less mission-driven and be much more market-driven. What's your take on this?
You've conflated 2 questions. I will answer second, and since I'm 76, I will have forgotten what that is. You'll remind me of it. The first part of it, the market-driven versus the art-driven, was really brought home to me after my wonderful visit of the Boijmans, which is the place I love, and getting to The Hague. And I know that I am meant to be entirely polite to my host, but I will have to tell you that you walk into the Mauritshuis, and as you turn towards the ticket area, there are 2 huge posters of Vermeer's girl with a pearl earring. Wherever you turn, you see an image of that picture. I will tell you something. I did not go and look at the painting. I was so enraged. It had been turned from a painting into an image, into an illustration on a coffee mug, that the very place that displays the original should cover itself with posters of that image is simply inexcusable. And so, fortunately, one of the most gorgeous girls, women, in the world is at the Mauritshuis. And it is not the girl with the pearl earring. It is a little painting by Bartel Bruyn, which is in a vitrine with deep, sensual eyelids. She's absolutely heavenly. And she made up for it, for me. Look her up, Bartel Bruyn, Mauritshuis. I've forgotten her name. But in any event, that's the first part of it. I think museums just have to be careful about things such as that. It's an interesting thing in the history of art, and that's a tangent. There are some major figures who actually are better image makers than they are painters. I would say that, for example, of the Belgian surrealist Magritte. Magritte is a bad painter, but he's a fabulous image maker, and so on and so forth. But Vermeer is a great painter. Don't make him a good image maker. Okay. The other part of it is a much more complicated issue, that of the government, the cuts to the arts and this and so forth. I exercise my métier in a country in which all museums except the Smithsonian in Washington are private. There are no funds. The Met doesn't receive any money from Washington. It receives a little bit from the city of New York for guardianship. But if we said tomorrow to the state we wouldn't need it, you wouldn't notice it. So it's minimal. It's entirely based on the money given by a great many donors, many of whom are on the Board of Trustees. This is why we put them on the Board of Trustees. And, well, it's just a fact of life. And the issue here is that I cannot altogether condemn, and having been born French and also a country where all of the museums are state institutions, I've certainly watched closely. I'm on the Board of Trustees of the Musée d'Orsay, and I've just come from a meeting there where the government is also cutting subsidies to a number of places. these governments and the museums are in a conundrum because, on the one hand, there is ingrained in the society, in the minds of all of you, that, well, if you do not disburse any money, somehow the state will. That is not an incentive for you to go into your pocket and give money. If a state whose cultural institutions are dependent on the state is going to cut back, I do not believe it should do so until it has put in place those structures, usually fiscal structures, to allow for a smooth transition to the private sector, such as subventions to corporations to be able to make up the gap, or tax deductions for individuals who make gifts, but simply cold turkey to simply remove the money when the culture is not there for donation seems to be not wise.